Here are the hottest sports cards of the week. Welcome, everybody. I'm Coach Co. I am with Sports Cards Pro, and we are going to dive into the top trending sports cards over the course of the last 7 days. Using our Sports Cards Pro app team, we're going to be jumping onto the app just like so. We're going to go over to Tools feature. The feature that we are talking about today is part of the premium subscription on the Sports Cards Pro app. For just $6 a month, you get access to this as well as many other features on the app. That being said, just for joining us today, just for jumping on these videos, just for subscribing, hitting that notification bell, you get access to this and much more information absolutely for free. So it's a bang, bang, win-win. Team, we are starting off with basketball. We are talking about Paulo Banchero. I'm going to get it right one of these days. His Panini Select card is trending with 69 sales over the course of the last 7 days. We're going to go into it. This ungraded copy was selling for about $2.29 back in July. Now it's August. It's $1.38. PSA 10 copies are going for $35.33. PSA 9 copies are going for $12.03, team. As I've said with many other videos on this channel, I think the time is long past to grade base cards, especially when it comes to basketball, football, wrestling in most cases. A lot of these things, especially ultra modern products, there's so many of them in circulation and people are just not paying up for base anymore. So that when you were grading base and you were flipping base, those times, during the pandemic, that was very popular and some players still hold, but for the most part, it's almost better just sell them raw versus, look at this card. It's $1.38, right? You pay grading fees, let's say $12, $15 minimum. If it comes back a 9, you've lost money. If it comes back a 10, you gain a little bit of a percentage, but it's a gamble, right? So I personally don't think that gamble is worth it. However, if you've got a really good eye for grading, all the power to you. We're going to go back and we're going to go into our baseball category next. Look at the sales volume in baseball. So you'll find that, over the course of the year, if things are happening, if players are hitting home runs, if people are stealing bases and challenging for titles and other things of that nature, you're going to see volume come up exponentially. So you see Shohei is high on this list. He's in MVP contention. Ellie De La Cruz has absolutely popped off, and that's where a lot of the volume is. But we're starting to see some volume on Adley Rutschman. So 60 of these cards have sold over the course of the last week. Topps Chrome Titans. This is an insert. I guess very popular. $2.58 are what these ungraded copies are going for. Topps Chrome just released not very long ago. So that's another thing that you're going to see very frequently is like when a set gets released, a lot of the volume is going to go towards that set. So keep that in mind. If you are buying, I would say that generally speaking, if you hold off a little bit after the set settles, you'll get a true sense of what the market actually wants or wants to pay for it. We're going into football next. Volume is down. We know that. Brock Purdy, Dan Marino second on this list. Always surprises me. Kenny Pickett, Brock, Trevor Lawrence, all quarterbacks. So if you collect football and you collect other things than quarterbacks, it is open season for you. You get pretty much access to whatever you like. Joe Burrow is who we're going to feature today. This is his base Prism, $55 ungraded, 40-day volume. Not 40-day, 40 sales for the 7-day volume. Now, this card at one point was $100, and then it was $38. We have currently settled at about $55. That is not $38. 1 second here. That is $91. There you go. It got as low as $24, though, in November. $55 where it settled. This is his base Prism rookie. PSA 10 copies are going for about $215. 9s are $62.96. So you're gambling on that 10. You better know what you're looking for if you're submitting one of these. One feature that I'd love to highlight, and I find it very useful, is the pop report features. Right over here, you get PSA 10s, 9s, 8s, and you can use this information to determine essentially how difficult it is to get a high grade or get a certain grade of a card, I think. Because when you see where the average is, you can see that the average grade here is 9 and 10, and that's probably why there's such a giant discrepancy between the 9 and 10. There's almost the same number of 9s as there is 10s. PSA 10 copies are 6,370. And then as you can see, you know, there's a 4. I can't imagine getting a 4 on this card. 12 5s, you know, so these are like the outliers. But the vast majority of the volume is right here. So keep that in mind when you're grading your cards. Check out the pop reports when determining whether or not you want to acquire something. Hockey's up next. We got Erik Karlsson high on this list. I knew he was going to be here. He just made a big, I guess he didn't really do anything, but he just got traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins. A lot of people were talking about them being cup contenders as a result of this. He had a massive season last year. He scored 100 points as a defenseman, which put him into a category that no one has done in about 30 years, if I'm not mistaken. Now, back in 2021 of August, this card was selling for about $63.79. As you can see, volume is up and price is up accordingly. So this card was about $30.81 back in May, and now it's up to about $46.95. So a lot of volume on a guy that doesn't really get a ton of volume. The hockey card market, as you can see, has much less volume versus some of the other markets. We're going to go into our next category, my friends, and that is a new category that we featured here for the last month or so, and that is racing. We've got Kevin Magnussen high on this list from his 2022 Topps Lights Out Formula One. 3 cards sold. This is a nice looking card though. Kind of looks like a color blast in my opinion. These cards were selling for about $9.61 back in July. They have since come down to about $4.57. You're not going to see a lot of pop on these depending on the card, at least right now, especially with this kind of volume. So, I mean, if you're a fan of racing, just know that the market is emerging and people are still very new. So, I mean, this could be a great opportunity for you if you like F1 and racing in general. Soccer's up next. Again, volume not very high. Alex Morgan is very high on this list, however, and she is very high on this list because the Women's World Cup is on right now, despite USA being knocked out. So this is interesting. I think this is lingering from the last week, perhaps. Now, 7-day volume, 18 cards sold. Usually it's like Mbappe, Messi high on this list. So, I mean, you can tell that the leagues have fired up again and that the Women's World Cup is here. This is her 2011 Upper Deck MLS card in a PSA 10. This card sells for $117.11. PSA 9 copies or 9 grade in general, $78. Now, I mean, given the fact that this card $57 when raw, I mean, the PSA 10 is actually, you know, you usually see about a 3x markup on the raw. So I'd be curious to see what the pop reports are on the raw versus the 9s and 8s, because yeah, like I said, you usually see about 3x raw price, give or take, and this is just over 2. So I mean, and from 2011, so maybe there's not a lot of them in circulation and people are just trying to get equity out of them. Next category on the list rather is UFC. Hasbulla still very high on this list. However, John Jones's 2010 Leaf autographs are also high on this list. His stuff, I mean, Leaf has started to kind of pop off a little bit. I don't know if they've been making like a late influencer push or what the deal is, but I mean, people are starting to kind of come around to unlicensed product, it seems. Just for the record, Leaf does not hold the license to a lot of these leagues and affiliations, but they do, I mean, they do have the autographs, they have the rights to the autograph. So there's it's like a weird little middle ground for them. This ungraded copy was selling for about $79 back in February, $80, and now they're up to about $120 roughly. PSA 10 copies will run you $360. Like I said, look at that, 3x almost exactly. And 9s will run you $126. So just above the price of raw. Last category on this list, my friends, and that is wrestling. Gable Stevenson's is relatively high on this list with 3 sales. Crazy how you can be high on this list with 3 sales. This is his red, white, and blue Prism out of 2022 Panini Prism WWE. This card was selling for about $8.62 back in July of 2022 and has since come down to $2.49. PSA 10 copies will run you $70. A 9 will run you $15.50, team. it's kind of surreal that we've come to the point basically where if you grade a raw card and it comes back a 9, you have pretty much almost lost money no matter what. Like it is. So I would honestly recommend you get really, really good at establishing the grades of cards. Now, I mean, you can submit something and be completely off, and that happens to the best of us. But in general, if you know what to look for in terms of corners, centering, edges, and surface, and know the sets, you might be able to take advantage of this market where, I mean, I say take advantage very loosely, but create favorable situations where you're buying raw cards and potentially grading them and they come back 10s. Because if they come back 9s, like I said, it is a losing battle. That being said, flip the script. If you want to buy 9s, I mean, they're probably as cheap as they're ever, or not ever going to get, but at the very least, they're cheap in comparison to what you have to do to acquire that 9 if it was you. You have to pull the card or buy the card. Then you have to submit the card. You have to pay the fee. It comes back. You could just buy a 9. If that's something that you wanted a graded encapsulated card for essentially cheaper than if you were going to do it yourself. So there's so many different ways to approach this information. That's why I give you guys data. That's why Sports Cards Pro is a great tool to use, even if you're using the not using the premium features. All right. So use it at your will. Enjoy it. Team, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. Sports Cards Pro and Coach Co are out of here.